Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here, and today we're going to take a look at our Double Gameweek 37 highest predicted points team. Now this team is stacked, 127 predicted points for this team for Double Gameweek 37. There are 4 teams that double: Man United, Man City, Chelsea and Brighton, and of course the model will factor this into the predictions for all these players that you see here in this starting 11. So in our own individual teams, I am aware that a couple of us are struggling to pick out the optimal 3 players from each of the teams that double. So hopefully the model will be useful in telling us which 3 players are predicted to do really well, and then we can factor that into our own decision making for our own teams as well. So just before I jump into this video, a very quick word from the sponsor of today's video, DraftHound. DraftHound is an FPL manager's dream, and the best part is it's free to use. There's a full suite of useful tools like fixture analysis that you see here, with winning odds, clean sheet odds and over 2 goals odds. The one that I use really often is the clean sheet odds, which really helps when I'm stuck between which defender to bench and which defender to start, which, as you guys know, can be the difference between a green and a red arrow. Now aside from this, there's also dream teams based on predicted points, which is also where the data for today's video has come from. And dream teams is also pretty accurate in picking out some good differentials and budget picks for the run-in. For the stats junkies, if you'd like an in-depth analysis on a player, then player rankings is the place to go, where DraftHound lets you analyze predicted points and also compare the probability of their goal involvement. So you guys get the idea. There's loads of useful tools in DraftHound, and I won't cover every single one, but I have to highlight my favorite feature before we get back to the video, and that is this assistant manager tool, where you can import your own FPL team, and DraftHound literally manages your team for you by suggesting potential transfers and optimizing your lineup for you to gain maximum points. So I cannot recommend DraftHound enough, and the best part is it's a guaranteed green arrow because you support the channel and also get an excellent FPL tool all for free. So start tinkering now. Head over to drafthound.link/FPL consult or the first link in the description to create an account today. So as of recording, there are still quite a couple of important games to go, and that is the Newcastle versus Brighton game and also the Man City versus Real Madrid game. Now those games are important because Brighton and Man City double in Game Week 37 and therefore are teams that we want to target. So do keep a lookout for those fixtures, and if any players get injured, it could change our plans for Game Week 37. But as things stand, this is how the best 11 for Game Week 37 is looking like. David De Gea is in goal. He plays Bournemouth and Chelsea as part of his double game week fixtures. Both these teams haven't been scoring loads of goals at all. David De Gea just won the Golden Glove as well. Don't ask me how. He has kept quite a couple of clean sheets, even though there are some games this season where he has been quite questionable. So 6.5 predicted points for this game week in isolation. Game week 37, he plays Bournemouth and Chelsea. I think is a fair prediction. And on top of that, he is actually the 3rd highest ranked keeper for this game week in terms of predicted points. He's just behind Ederson and Jason Steele. So in defense, there's Trent, Trippier and Estupiñán. You'll realize that there are 2 single game week players here, but not to worry, the rest of the players in this starting 11 are all double game week players. Now these 2 single game week players, Trippier and Trent, are in this team for a reason. Both of them have home fixtures and they have pretty high predicted points as well. 5.9 for Trippier, 6.2 for Trent. Both of them have been putting up really good attacking numbers. Trippier's, even though he has dropped off a little bit, he hasn't been scoring as many points as he did earlier on in the season. His numbers are still there. His numbers are still good. Against Leicester, you would think that they would keep a clean sheet because Leicester are really struggling at this point in time. They're playing Newcastle away from home as well, and generally at home Newcastle play really, really well. So I do fancy a clean sheet there, and if Trippier gets his attacking return that has been due for really long, 5.9 predicted points is actually a pretty low estimate for him. Right. As for Trent, needless to say, he just scored a goal against Leicester in Game Week 36. 6.2 predicted points for him against Aston Villa at home. I think he could very well outscore that as well. Now, lastly, there's Estupiñán. He has a double game week. He plays Southampton and then Man City. Of course, the Man City game would be slightly more difficult, but against Southampton, you would think that they would really smash them, and Southampton have been relegated as well. So I think a deflated Southampton team wouldn't really be able to score a lot of goals against Estupiñán. So I do think like a clean sheet for Brighton is there. And for his attacking threat, I know he got a goal and an assist against Arsenal in game week 36, and that is only the first fixture. There is still the second fixture to go, as I mentioned, but to be fair, none of us were expecting that return against Arsenal. But when we look at the big picture, he has been consistently putting up very good attacking numbers in terms of providing assists and also getting shots on target as well. So you can say that Estupiñán was due, and against Arsenal, even though none of us expected him to do what he did actually come good and pay off all the XG and XA that was due for him. Right, so 9.3 predicted points for him for game week 37. He makes this team as well. And let's now take a look at the midfielders. So in midfield, it is a very strong midfield 5. All of them are double game week players. 2 Man City, 2 Brighton, and 1 Manchester United player. So talking about the Man City assets first, there are 2 Man City assets here, De Bruyne and Mahrez, but in general, it is very difficult to predict which 2 Man City players will play both games. Now, simply because of the situation that Manchester City are in right now, right? It is a situation where if they win the first game against Chelsea, the Brighton game is no longer a must-win, right? So you could see a lot of rotation in that Brighton game if the Premier League is already sealed by then, and there is a lot of speculation that that will happen, so do bear that in mind. But if these players do start both games, then De Bruyne and Mahrez have really high predictions for them. 13.2 for De Bruyne and 11.8 for Mahrez. Now De Bruyne, of course, is De Bruyne. He's creating loads of chances every game. He is always the player that is whipping in balls for Man City, and of course he's on a couple of set pieces as well, so there is every chance that he can do really well in game week 37. I think with him, it's a situation where if he only plays that Chelsea game, there is a chance he could score really well in that one, and then if he misses out in the second game against Brighton, you don't feel that bad at all. But I do feel like he is in a territory where you don't buy him and you also don't sell him. If you have him, you take it that you take a chance on him. 13.2 predicted points is pretty good, but if you don't have him, I don't think you would go so far as to buy him, because it is a little bit too risky for the player of his price point. Now, as for Mahrez, 11.8, he's been getting a lot of points recently. 4 assists in the last 4 games. He started quite a couple of Premier League games as well, so hopefully he does start both in game week 37, and then 11.8 predicted points for him shouldn't be an issue at all. Now, as for the Brighton players, there's Mitoma and McAllister. 10.7 for Mitoma and 10.2 for McAllister. Now, Mitoma has been passing the eye test really well. Against Arsenal, he did really well against Ben White, who struggled to keep up with him, and a lot of chances were created down Mitoma's flank as well. Now, in terms of McAllister, I think he is the next best attacker to go for. There is, of course, Enciso, Bruno Norte, there's also Ferguson, but I think none of their minutes are as guaranteed as McAllister, and he is also on penalties as well. So 10.2 for him, I think it's not even that far of a stretch. I think he could definitely get that. And as for Bruno Fernandes, double game week for him, Bournemouth and Chelsea. He has been Manchester United's best attacking assets in recent weeks. It's not even Marcus Rashford, because Fernandes has been putting up better numbers than Rashford in the past few game weeks. So 12 predicted points for him, I think is pretty alright. I think he could very well get it. And if Rashford is still out for game week 37, Bruno Fernandes will really have to step up and fill those shoes and really get those returns for Man United. So we could see him in a very advanced role, in the thick of all the attacks as well. So Bruno Fernandes, 12 predicted points. Let's take a look now at the forwards. So up front, Erling Haaland and Anthony Martial. Erling Haaland has 15.9 predicted points this week, so I don't think we would expect anything less from a player of his quality and the number of goals he's been banging in this season, and he has a double game week in 37, of course, so that obviously just shoots him all the way up the rankings. So 15.9 for him, he's the captain. Vice captain will be Kevin De Bruyne. Now the question is whether Haaland will start both, and if I kind of estimate a little bit, I would say that he'll probably play a large chunk of the Real Madrid game. Whether it goes into extra time or not, it could even impact his minutes moving forward into game week 37. But assuming it's 90 minutes against Real Madrid, I do think like he will play a good chunk of the Chelsea game as well. So the Brighton one is where I think we could see some rotation, because the Chelsea game, the first game of the double game week 37 for him, is where they really need him, because they want to seal the Premier League as soon as possible. So I do think like we could see some rotation for Haaland against Brighton, but whether or not that happens, even if he comes on for a cameo, let's say 30 minutes against Brighton, I still think like there is every chance that he can score really well because he's just that explosive. So 15.9 predicted points for him this week. He will be my own captain for my FPL team as well. And then we have Anthony Martial, 9.8 predicted points this game week, which is slightly higher than Anthony at 9.2. In terms of going for a third Man City asset or a second attacker, I generally prefer Martial ahead of Anthony, and that's because I think Martial is not only playing that centre forward role where he will get more chances to score goals, but on top of that, in terms of finishing, I think Martial is a slightly more clinical finisher than Anthony, who is kind of restricted to taking some pot shots from outside the box as well. So I'm not too confident of Anthony's prospects in 37. I'm more confident of Martial's one. So 9.8 predicted points for him means that the model also favors him ahead of Anthony. Now, this is how the team is shaping up for Double Gameweek 37. There's 3 Man United players, 3 Man City players, and 3 Brighton players. And then you have Trippier and Trent as the single game week players, of course. So let me know how many players from this team do you guys have in your own teams, and which triple up are you going for in each of these teams that double as well. I'll be keen to know down in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think of these predictions as well. But for now, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. And I'll catch you guys in more Double Game Week 37 content very soon.